Next up, we are going to bring in the boy, Jimmy G. We're going to talk about some hockey. We are going to get into ring. What is up, Jimmy? How we living today?
Hey,
boys, how are you?
what's
We're
happening?
fucking chilling, bro. Feeling good. Feeling real March.
Damn right. Spring's in the air, boys. I love it.
Sir,
No. All right, so let's get right into it.
Talk to
We'll
me.
start with the boys hockey. Flyers news. This weekend was back-to-back shutouts versus the Sabres, which is absolutely a huge deal. That hasn't happened in probably 10 to 15 years of any Flyers series back-to-back shutouts. Yeah, both goalies, Brian Elliott and Carter Hart, played. They both started in both those games. So both looked excellent. Both were sharp. Carter Hart really picked his game up. He was good on his angles, didn't give up a lot of rebounds, and he finally handled the puck well. That's been a problem all season for him. He goes behind the net, and he'll make bad decisions. I mean, that comes with age, though. I mean, the kid's 22, so he's got to learn. I mean, it's trial by fire at this point. This raises a question for me: is whether the Flyers are good or the Sabres are just that bad. So the way I look at it, though, look at the standing or the stats per se.
Yeah.
The boy from Dirty Jersey, James Van Riemsdyk, he is actually 7th in points. He is 11th in goals, and he's 2nd in power play goals. So he's having
Are you
probably
talking team or league?
in the entire league.
Okay, yeah, all right.
He's absolutely tearing it up. He was the 2nd overall pick back when he was drafted. I think it was in 2012. And he really never produced on a high level. I mean, granted, he's been on 2 teams, been on the Flyers and Toronto, and they came back to the Flyers. But he has always been a good second or third line starter. But he never really put up those 2nd overall numbers you'd expect to see.
Yeah.
Granted, he's a grinder, like not a two-way forward, but a guy who sits his fat ass in front of the net and just takes those deflections. He'll put his stick on the ice and the puck will hit it and it deflects in.
Yeah.
If you look at his highlights this year, it's all those deflections, and it's pretty damn cool. I'm telling you, if Crosby hit some of those, the league would be going crazy. But of course, it's Philly. No one gives a shit. We know everyone hates us. We don't care. So this weekend, or on Tuesday, that's the weekend. On Tuesday, it will be the start of 3 games with the Penguins, and this is an absolute huge must-win 3 games. The Penguins are 2 points behind us in the standings. We are we have 2 games in hand, which means we didn't play as many games as they did. So these games weigh more for us. This is the Battle of Pennsylvania, my favorite rivalry in all of sports. It's going to be fast, hard-hitting, lots of scoring. The Flyers are rolling. They're feeling good.
Who's got the edge going into this? I know it's hard to keep the bias out a little bit, but what you thinking?
Definitely the Flyers. They came off of the Lake Tahoe absolute ass beating from the Bruins. They lost 7-2. It's embarrassing.
We're talking hockey, dude. It's 7-2.
No, it's like a baseball score almost, but it was an absolute terrible loss. The Bruins took advantage of them. And this brings me to another point. The Flyers are 11-1-1 against every other team in the division except the Bruins, and they have not won a game against the Bruins. So that kind of answers my question: are the Flyers good or were the Sabres bad? I think the Flyers. You just stop playing Boston. Just don't go there anymore. They have our number. They're a powerhouse team. I can't deny that. Teams do get hot, and I think the Bruins are just a hot team. I think that they do have experience and they do have youth, but at the same time, I just don't see them winning the cup. Definitely a big playoff contender, but again, I can't wait to see them slow down and maybe the Flyers take a few points from them. Let's go into the league standings just to see the top 5. First place, Toronto Maple Leafs, absolute powerhouse, have stayed up there the entire time this season's been going on. Number 2 is Tampa Bay Lightning. Absolutely, just still running for that championship.
I mean, you kind of saw that coming, right? I mean, they're in full position for a run back here.
Yeah, they're definitely not suffering from the hangover here. They know what they're doing. I think this is a matter of time because that roster, it's like an all-star team. Mm-hmm. Every single line can score. Their defensive pairings are top-notch, and their goalie is probably second best, third best in the league with Vasilevsky. So I think that they should have won a cup like even 2 years ago, even last year. I think that this was inevitable. Good for them. Florida needs something, I guess. Tampa Bay, but so be it. That brings it to number 3, which is the Florida Panthers. And this is a huge surprise to me. I didn't think that they had the star power.
Yeah.
And looking at the stats, is they really don't have anybody in the top 15 or top 10 in goal scoring or points. So they're just good defensively. Everyone's scoring. Obviously, their coach is Joel Quenneville, and he was the coach with the Blackhawks when they won their 2 cups, or 3 cups rather. They obviously have a great coach, huge pedigree. You saw it all around. I mean, that's what you want. You want a team with depth. They have youth, they have experience, and even though they don't have players who are scoring ass loads of goals, I mean, everyone scores, and that's exactly what you want, especially in the playoffs. Because if you can have one line get shut down, that's your top line, then it screws up the entire chemistry because no one else can score. But if you have every line can score, it's an absolute bonus in the playoffs. Number 4 is Washington. This is a big surprise to me. I really didn't expect them to do this well this early, but it just proves that experience can trick teams with skill. You got Nicholas Backstrom, their bona fide center for years. He is leading their team in points and goals, surprisingly. Ovechkin is still on a tear. They have an excellent first-line defensive pairing with Zdeno Chara and John Carlson, an absolute stud scoring defenseman. With Washington, obviously the East Division was supposed to be really strong, and it hasn't been super strong this year thus far. But that can always change. But again, they just have experience. They know what they're doing. They've been here before, so I'm not. I think that they'll be good for the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to be a top 5 team, but they could surprise me. I'm not sure. And finally, in 5th place, the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know how long they can sustain this. I think they are plugging holes in their ship with gum, and that gum is in the form of Draisaitl and McJesus. Again, I keep bringing this up. McDavid has proven me wrong the last 4 times I've been on this show. He keeps doing things I think he can't do. He's shooting. He's a passer, and of course, he's probably I think in my opinion, the fastest player in the league with the puck. Just that body type. He's big and he's fast and he's hard to stop. And you have 2 studs with Draisaitl and him, such a complement pair. You can split them up or keep them on the same line. And it's like, how do you defend against 2 absolute studs? Also, they have a great goaltender duo, and that's a huge benefit. I believe Mike Smith is 9th in goals allows average, and so he's not letting a lot of pucks in.
Yeah.
Defensively, they could be better. But that brings me to the point of the Canadian Division again. So, obviously, Toronto, Canadian Division in 1st, Edmonton in 5th, and then the Winnipeg Jets are in 7th in the league. But that's 3. The next team is in 16th, the Canadians.
Well, I actually have a question here for you. They just recently fired that head coach, Claude Julien, and that's like a legit NHL coach. Like, he's one of the top paid people, won the cup, I think it was 2011 or 2013. I mean, why did they fire this boy?
You got me there. He led the Canadians to a deep playoff, or deep playoff run bubble last year. They beat the Penguins and they matched up against the Flyers and took them to 5 games, which is way more than anyone thought. But however, he might be a great coach, and I'm not taking anything away from him. But during that playoff run, he had a heart condition or
chest pains. Yeah, he was out.
Pains. So he was out, and I think that's a big part of that whole deep run for them is they wanted to play for their coach and really get motivated because, you got to play for your team, especially for a guy as cool as him.
Yeah.
I think that they are just in a tailspin. They haven't been winning many games. The thing is you can lose games, but you don't want to lose multiple games in a row. If you lose a game, you want to get right back and win the next one. Even if you go back and forth, you just don't want to stack up those losses. Yeah. And they've had a few streaks where they're going 2 or 3 losses in a row. But again, this confuses me because he's obviously an incredibly talented coach. He's experienced. He has the pedigree of a guy who's been in the league for years. It it's confusing to me, but I don't think that he's out of the league by any means. He might find a spot in another team in a assistant coach role, but
you don't see him going head coach right immediately.
Not immediately.
Yeah.
If a team as bad as the Canadians fired him, other teams are going to be like, "What the hell happened?" So it's definitely it's a perplexing situation for sure. I want to get into some player highlights, some things I noticed the past few weeks. Tarasenko, the leading scorer for the past 3 seasons for the Blues, has not played a single game this year. He had lower body surgery. Of course, I'm not going to say what it is.
Yeah, pause there. That could mean so much, dude.
I hate it. But he is coming back soon. He is looking to play in the next 2 games to see how he plays. Okay. And so look for the Blues to make a big leap in the standings. He is an absolute stud. I think he is an underrated player. He's a little bit on the smaller side body-wise. He's not the biggest player in the world, but he is a sniper. He is fast, and he's Russian. So he's got that hockey blood in him.
Yeah.
So definitely look for the Blues to improve in the next couple of weeks. I think it was last night or 2 nights ago, Patrick Kane hit 400 goals in his career.
Legend.
Wow. Yep. That's incredible.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. I think I'm going to make this hot take that he is the best American-born player ever. He absolutely carried the Blackhawks and is carrying them now. Chicago is in 6th right now, and everyone in the world expects them to tank and have a terrible season, but they're in 6th place overall. That's absolutely incredible. They lost their starting goaltender in Corey Crawford. Granted, age is a big difference in that, but that's a great goaltender that wasn't cutting it for him, so they put the backup in. He's doing well, but Patrick Kane is absolutely slugging this team along. Granted, I think that the Blackhawks are one of the best drafting teams in any sport. They have so many players that they produced, and so I think that their future is obviously set. But Patrick Kane, back to him, is I can't think of anybody, even the past couple of years, been better than him. I'm looking at players like TJ Oshie, who is very, very good. Nothing against him. But in terms of production and being able to single-handedly carry a team, I don't see it with TJ Oshie.
Jonathan Toews?
Yep, he's actually Canadian-born. But
that's right.
Yeah, but he's also a huge part of that Chicago team.
He's another legend.
Absolutely. Duncan Keith's another name I look at. But defenders never get credit for anything. You'll never see that happen. But another American-born player, Jonathan Quick, he was an absolute monster with the Kings. Won 2 cups in I think 3 or 4 years. But again, with him, it's a fall from grace. He absolutely has not been the same Jonathan Quick as he was a few years ago. But that's the thing with Patrick Kane is that consistency. He's obviously an older player. And coming from a Flyers fan, he scored the game-winning goal against us back when they went to the Stanley Cup Final. So I obviously have that bias against him. But I can't. You got to respect the best, man. He's absolutely one of the best players, probably the best player I've seen in my generation besides American-born players, that be. He's absolutely full respect to that man. Can't give anything away from him. Also, the other night, Jordan Binnington, the goalie for the Blues, got pulled against the Sharks, and he freaked out. I highly recommend you go look at this video. He gets out of the net, and he starts fucking duking out with different players. And this is a goalie. Like, this never happens. He goes to the bench. He's jawing to the bench. He's yelling at players. And as he's leaving the ice, he goes by the opposing goaltender, Jonathan Devin Dubnyk, my goodness, sorry. And they start jawing at each other. And I thought we were going to see a goalie fight. Haven't seen that yet. But I think it's going to come this year. Those are the best fights to watch. Again, I recommend looking up Ray Emery versus Braden Holtby, Flyers versus Washington. Great goalie fight, probably the best I've ever seen. Rest in peace, Ray Emery, by the way. And finally, let's take a look at the surprising teams. Obviously, Chicago is at 6th, like I mentioned earlier, and that is just star power and drafting. They got this kid DeBrincat, and he's an absolute stud. Again, it's just their experience. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith, they're carrying a team, and that just proves that old skill can trick young youth. So we'll see how that goes the rest of the season. Colorado is at 15th in the league, and that is just perplexing to me because they have such a star lineup, and their stars just aren't producing. Nathan McKinnon isn't doing too well. Nazem Kadri isn't playing well, and this team was predicted to win the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and they're still very high up in the runnings for a Cup finalist. Maybe they turn it on. I hope they do, but at this point, they do not look good. And also, finally, just a little fun point: the Dallas Stars right now are currently behind Detroit. And Dallas is the team obviously went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and they're behind the worst team last year. Granted, it's a little bit of a little fake news misleading because the Detroit Red Wings have played, I think, 6 more games in Dallas. So Dallas has some games in hand. But at this point right now, Dallas is behind Detroit. But that's it for me, guys. That's my hockey news, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Hey, brother, we appreciate you for sure.
Damn right.
Perfect.